Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipson. Today's guest is Trevor Whiffen. Trevor is a seasoned sports executive and a lawyer. He's a partner at Dickinson Wright in Toronto, the founding partner together with Brian Burke of Primetime Sports and Entertainment, and also the governor for London Knights Hockey Club. Get ready to learn about the upcoming 15th annual Primetime Sports Management Conference and Trade Show, held on November 10th to 12th at the Westin Harbour Castle Hotel in Toronto, Canada. How he co-founded the OHL team Mississauga IceDogs together with Don Cherry. The reason for why London Knights have been so successful. Trevor's best advice for aspiring sports managers, and much more. Trevor Whiffen, welcome to the Sports Management Podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm in a rainy Gothenburg, Sweden right now, and we are heading into fall. So it's a bit gray, but otherwise, everything is well.
Yeah, very similar here in Canada. It's that time of year.
Yeah, it is for sure. I'm very excited to talk to you. You are a seasoned sports executive and a lawyer. You are a partner at Dickinson Wright Lawyers in Toronto. You are the founding partner along with Brian Burke of Primetime Sports and Entertainment and the governor of London Knights Hockey Club.
That's correct. Yeah, I have a full plate and a busy day, but never a dull moment.
I'm happy to hear it. So much to talk about. So let's take them one by one. You're working every day as a lawyer. So what do you do at Dickinson Wright?
I'm a partner in the litigation department in the Toronto office. Dickinson Wright is a US-based firm that has a Canadian office, and I work in the Toronto office. My practice started as commercial litigation, but early on in my practice, I started to develop clients in sports and entertainment industries. Actually, my first two clients were Hockey Night in Canada and Don Cherry, the star of Hockey Night in Canada for 30 years. So if you're going to get started as a young lawyer in Canada, trying to find your way in the sports and entertainment business, those are two great clients to get started with. So I've been very fortunate to have a lot of interesting clients over the years doing a lot of interesting work.
You are also the founding partner of Primetime Sports and Entertainment, together with Brian Burke, which is the largest sports management conference held in Canada every year.
Yes, it's also one of the largest in North America. Brian Burke and I started it back in 2008 as an opportunity for young professionals and younger people still, students even, to have an opportunity to learn from and network with senior members of the sports business community. And it's grown from sort of an infant idea in 2008. And I can laugh now. In 2008, I think we had 49 speakers and 49 paid delegates. And now it is the largest sports management conference in Canada and one of the largest in North America. And I think it's the place to be where people want to see and be seen and are honored to be invited to speak. So it's really been a great passion piece for Brian and I. And, we don't do it to top up on our earnings. We do it because we think that there's a need to give back to young people in particular.
That's great. The conference is coming up here soon and the lineup of speakers is amazing. So can you talk a little bit about this year's event?
Yeah, the conference this year runs from Thursday, November 10 until the close of business on Saturday, November 12. It starts off with a business case competition involving college and university students on the Thursday. On Thursday night, we have a welcome reception where Brian Burke, my partner, and if you've ever heard Brian speak, you know he's worth the price of admission by himself. But Brian will be interviewing Jess Berman, who's the newly minted commissioner of the National Women's Soccer League. She previously held positions as a vice president of the National Hockey League and also as a deputy commissioner of the National Lacrosse League. So she's held senior positions in three major sports, which is pretty remarkable. So we have her as a guest speaker at the welcome reception on the Thursday night, November 10. And then starting Friday morning, November 11th, we run through over the next 2 days, 17 different panel discussions or keynote addresses. And the topics that we cover include everything from overcoming COVID to host the big event. There were 5 national championships in Canada that were obliterated by COVID that came back in 2022. So we have the leaders of those organizations talking about the Grey Cup, the Canadian Open, the Indy, which is a big car race here in Toronto, We have a panel about creative marketing strategies, about the importance of developing corporate partnerships. We have a guest speaker from the Los Angeles Dodgers talking about the refurbishments and renovations made to Dodger Stadium over the last few years. Dodgers, in response to the fact that portions of their stadium had become overrun by gangs and weren't really safe or hospitable for families. So they closed that part of the stadium down and rebuilt it with sandboxes and climbers and all things that made it family friendly. So Derek O'Hara is going to be talking about that. And then we have an EDI panel on the afternoon of November 11 rather. EDI, of course, is such an important issue now and always will be, I think, going forward. So we have that. We have a panel about giving back and the importance of charitable works. And we're also having a panel on the 11th featuring 4 women who have made outstanding contributions to their respective sports. So that's an action-packed day on Friday, followed by a career in sports workshop on Friday night that runs for about 3 hours, gives young people an opportunity to hear from younger people who are already established in the sports industry and get tips from them on how to find their way in the business. Saturday is equally as jam-packed. We have a commissioners roundtable, a league operations roundtable on Saturday morning. Then we have a keynote interview with Donald Fear from the National Hockey League Players Association. We have a panel about the new ways in which we consume sports, which will be headed up by John Shannon, former vice president of broadcasting with the NHL and also the head of Hockey Night in Canada for many years. We have a panel about the legalization of gaming, sports betting in Canada, which just occurred this year. We have a player evaluation panel, a contract negotiation panel, and we have the Sedin brothers, you'll be pleased to know, as our guests at lunch on Saturday, November 12th. And of course, that's just 2 days before their induction into the Hockey Hall of Fame. And the Sedins have a special place with Primetime because my partner, Brian Burke, drafted the Sedins with the Vancouver Canucks when Brian was the general manager there. And you may recall sort of orchestrated the draft to move up to be sure that he could get both Sedin brothers. So he brought them to Vancouver in the National Hockey League. And Brian is also on the Hockey Hall of Fame induction. So I'm sure he had a hand in making sure that the brothers were both admitted this year and together. So it's a special day in a lot of ways, given the connection with the Sedins. So we have a lot to offer over the 3 days.
That's a full-packed schedule, and only the Sedin brothers are worth the entry, if you ask me. But you also mentioned Jessica Berman, and now with soccer becoming so much more popular in North America as well, yes, it will be very interesting to see what she can do for the Women's Soccer League.
Well, in the opening night with San Diego this year, they drew over 32,000 people to see the women's team in the National Women's Soccer League play. And that's a great crowd in any sport at any time in any league. You know, if you had 32,000 people show up for a Canadian Football League game, that's a great turnout. We also have, speaking of Canadian Football League, we have a keynote address with Randy Ambrosi, who's the commissioner of the Canadian Football League. And Randy's always a great addition to our event.
Definitely. Primetime and Sports Management Podcast did a sweepstake on Instagram, and one lucky winner got a ticket to your event now in November.
Excellent.
But for the other people listening who might want to attend, how do they purchase tickets? And also, will it be offered online?
You can sign up online at primetimesport.ca, and that's the easiest way to get registered for the event and come and attend in person. We urge people to come and attend in person because you really miss out on the networking opportunity if you're not there. We are not offering this year a streaming option. Last year we did offer it, and we didn't find that there was a lot of interest or uptake on that, so we haven't offered that this year. But as I've indicated on a couple of occasions, we really stress the value of networking with the people that are at the conference, so we encourage people to attend. However, if you cannot attend, you can go online to primetimesport.ca a few weeks from now, and you can watch the entire conference in its entirety in a recorded version, as you can watch past year's conferences as well online as well. Trying to reach as many people as possible.
That's great. And that's a good substitute for people who can't be there in person. But of course, we urge everyone to be there in person to network and to meet the Sedin brothers, of course.
Yeah.
The third role that I mentioned in the beginning that you have is that you are the governor of London Knights Hockey Club, and you have been involved there since 2003, if I'm correct.
That's correct. This is my 20th season with the London Knights.
That's fantastic. So how did it start, and how has the journey been up until today?
Well, it started originally with Mississauga IceDogs of the Ontario Hockey League. Don Cherry and I, who was the star for many years of Hockey Night in Canada, Don and I applied for an expansion franchise for Mississauga in the Ontario League, and we were granted the rights to host the team starting in 1998. So for the first 5 years of my involvement in the Ontario Hockey League, I was the president, governor, and general manager of the Mississauga IceDogs. And we sold the team in 2002. It broke my heart to do so because it was my baby. But I was only one of 5 shareholders on the team. So we sold the team, and I quickly transitioned to becoming the governor of the London Knights. I had gotten to know Mark and Dale Hunter, who had recently purchased the London Knights through my involvement with the Mississauga IceDogs. And Mark and Dale invited me to come down and be their governor. Now, every team, there's 20 teams in the Ontario Hockey League. Every team has a governor. The 20 governors run the league business along with the commissioner of the league. So you are sort of a liaison between your team and the league, and the 20 of the governors of the various teams in the league all work together to do things, work on things such as rule changes, equipment changes, television deals, dealings with other hockey federations, special tournaments, education packages for players in our league, and opportunities to give back to the community. So it's been a very rewarding position. I've been on the board of governors of the Ontario Hockey League for over 25 years now, and it's been just a great time. And the other governors are like family members. You know, you compete against them when you're playing against them on the ice, but when you get together in the boardroom, you're all like family together.
I'm sure. You have also had quite a success with the club and won several championships, and also been crowned the Memorial Cup champions 2 times.
Yeah, we've been fortunate in London. During the time that I've been there, we've won 4 Ontario Hockey League championships. We've gone to the Memorial Cup 5 times, and we won it twice. We won it in 2005 with a team led by Corey Perry, and we won it again in 2016 with a team led by Mitch Marner and Matthew Tkachuk, among many others. Olli Julivi, another Swedish player he's Finnish, actually, Julivi. Got drafted by the Vancouver Canucks. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of great players come through our system. John Tavares, Max Domi, Patrick Kane, Dennis Weidman, Rick Nash. We've had a lot of Nazem Kadri, who just won the cup and went to Calgary. We've had a lot of great players come through our organization, and it's been very rewarding to see how well all of those players have done in their hockey careers. But we're also proud of the guys that go on to become firemen and police officers or lawyers or doctors or members of the community contributing that way. Our goal is to develop not just good hockey players, but good corporate citizens.
What do you think is behind the success of the club? Since you have managed to build not only champions, but also, as you said, great characters.
I think it comes down to the ownership of our team. Our team is owned by Dale Hunter, his brother Mark Hunter, and by Basil McRae. There are 3 guys that played over 40 years in the National Hockey League themselves. They all played in the National League, and they know how to get to that level, compete at that level, and stay at that level. So our players are, I think we carefully select the players that we choose to come to our team based upon skill and will. Mark would always talk about skill and will, the skill to play and the will to play, and the character of the players. And once they're in London, we run our team like a professional franchise should be run, and I think have done a great job of preparing players for the future. This year on opening night, I think there was 29 former London Knights on NHL lineups across the National Hockey League. You consider that's like a whole 1.5 teams worth of players in the National League that came through London during their junior career. So we're very proud of the players that have gone on to the big stage and serve as great ambassadors for our team, our city, and our league.
And that's also proof that everyone has done so well, and that might lead to that more people want to come to your team and make a similar journey.
Yeah, we have a draft, both a European draft and a North American draft. So largely we have to populate our team rather with players that we get through the draft. So you have to draft well. And there's not a whole lot of opportunity for free agency in junior hockey because if you're good, you've probably been seen and you've been selected by a team. But where we do, I think, have an advantage is that because we've had a lot of success with our team, it's easier to convince players that have other options to come to London. It's a great city with a great university and college there. We have 9,000 seat arena and it holds 9,090 and we played at 99.9% capacity every night. So it's a great atmosphere for the players. And then there's the winning tradition and players know that they're going to get seen by scouts and they're going to play with other good players. So it sort of feeds off itself. There isn't a lot of free agency, as I say, but we've been fortunate with some players that have not been drafted. I'll give you an example. Josh Anderson, who plays for the Montreal Canadiens now, was not drafted into the OHL. We invited him to come as a walk-on at training camp. He made our team. 2 years later, he plays for the Canadian national team at the World Juniors, gets drafted by Columbus, and now he's a star player with the Montreal Canadiens, but not drafted in the OHL. So he's a great example of a free agent signing. But by and large, you build through the draft. So you have to have a network of scouts out there who are working hard all the time to identify great players.
So how is the draft process like? Are you looking for players both in North America and in the European market?
You can draft North American players the year in which they turn 16, and not many make major junior teams at the age of only 16. They typically make it as a 17-year-old, some not till a 19-year-old. And the European draft is one where, we don't have the opportunity to have scouting staffs in Europe, but you do have contacts over there. So you rely upon the lists that are prepared by scouting agencies that are looking at players all the time, and you're trying to harvest opportunities from among the people that you know who are connected in the European hockey community. It's not as easy to identify great players in Europe because we don't see them the way we see the North American players. But having said that, we've been fortunate and had some great European players on our team.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And there's only 2 import players permitted per team. So, every team can have a maximum of 2. You don't have to have any if you prefer not to, but you can have a maximum of 2, which also creates a bit of a challenge in and of itself for the players that come over, because it's not like they're playing with 5 other Swedes. There will be one other European player who could be Slovakian, Czech, German, Russian, Ukrainian, or Swedish or Finnish. So there's an acclimation process that the European players have to go through in addition to just being a good hockey player on a competitive team. So it's an adjustment, I think, for the Europeans in a lot of cases, but many come over and do fabulously well.
You have also been involved with the International Ice Hockey Federation World Junior Hockey Championships.
Yeah, I was fortunate to be a co-chair of the World Junior Championships when it was hosted in Toronto over Christmas of December 2016-17. And that was a great experience as well, because you've got, the elite players from around the entire world playing back-to-back games every day in an arena, in this case, Scotiabank Arena, which is only, 20 miles from where I live. So it was a great opportunity to be involved in that level. I also ran 2 Memorial Cups in London, which is the national championship version of our championship. And that's a great opportunity to give back to your community and involve members of the community, and it's not once in a lifetime because we've held it twice, but for many people, they only ever get to participate in a Memorial Cup on 1 or 2 occasions. So all of those events are a great experience for those involved and involve a lot of members of the community in volunteer capacities. So they're both great events.
And for those who might not know, what does the role as co-chair entails?
Oversight really of just about every aspect of the tournament, with the assistance of the IHF and the guidance of the IHF. Like, it's the IHF's tournament being hosted in Canada through Hockey Canada, and you are on the host committee that's organizing everything on the ground to make sure that the event is executed and runs as seamlessly as possible. So you get a lot of input and guidance from the IHF, even so far as selecting anthem singers. The IHS has a lot of rules about how the tournament must be run, which is good because you need to have structure for an event like that. And then you have the assistance of your own national federation as well in operating the event. But you're on the ground day to day, making sure that everything that needs to happen in the tournament happens. So it's a wide range of responsibilities. And I think we had about 6 co-chairs the year that I was the co-chair.
This episode is sponsored by InSport Education, the online business school for sport. They offer a range of different courses, for example, Foundations of Sport Business, Private Equity in Sport, and much more. As a listener to this podcast, you get 10% off all of their courses using the code SportsManagementPodcast10. Click the link in the description below and sign up today. If we look at your career, I'm very interested to know how it started, from law school and how you were introduced to sport and up until today.
That's a lot of years to cover. I was always active as an athlete growing up. I played every sport: hockey, football, basketball, baseball, soccer, lacrosse, track and field, volleyball even. Although if you meet me, you would see that I don't look like your typical volleyball player because I'm not that tall. But I played every sport growing up. I was fiercely competitive, although not necessarily as skilled as many of my counterparts, but I just was very passionate about sports. And when I went into law school, I remember thinking, how great would it be if I had an opportunity to combine my love of sports and my training as a lawyer. And as I indicated earlier in this interview, a couple of years into my practice, I had the opportunity to do work for Hockey Night in Canada and Don Cherry. And Don is still a client of mine and a good friend of mine 30 years later. But little by little, bit by bit, I was introduced to various people. I've done work for Vladislav Tretiak, the Russian goaltender and the first European inducted in the Hall of Fame. Rick Vive, a Maple Leaf captain. Bruce Boudreau, the coach of the Vancouver Canucks. Lots of coaches along the way in baseball and in football and in hockey. And one thing just led to another. And I then got invited to speak at conferences. I spoke 4 times at the American Bar Association Sports and Entertainment annual forum. So you continue to build your network, and you just need to get your foot through the door and get that first opportunity and turn it into the second opportunity and the third opportunity. And if you continue to work hard at it, you can move forward and build a practice in that area. So I've been very fortunate to have some really interesting work. I've worked for 3 Olympic gold medalists, figure skating and swimming. It's been a great ride. I'm really very grateful for the opportunities I've had. And, I never wake up and feel bored or ho-hum about what it is that I get to do, because I really have had a very unique opportunity to do a lot of interesting work with a lot of interesting people. And my kids have all been exposed to those people too, which I think is a great sort of byproduct of being involved in sports and entertainment, is that my kids have met lots of successful people who have won national championships, world championships, Olympic medals, and they get an opportunity to realize that if those people can do it, my kids can succeed at things too and tackle the challenges that are in front of them and do well at whatever it is that they want to do. So it's been a great ride. I'm very fortunate.
It's a great journey. And as you said with your kids, you have so much to learn from being around elite athletes.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Great role models. We've been fortunate to have, vice presidents of the National Hockey League as close family friends that my kids have had an opportunity to, sit around the dinner table with, or coaches in the National Hockey League sit around our dinner table. It's a great opportunity for our kids to learn from people who have been extremely successful in their respective professions. And I'm very grateful for that too. It's been a great ride. I'm really very, very fortunate.
Speaking about Don Cherry, have you been the one who advises him on his suits?
No, he takes his own counsel on his suits and his shirts and his ties. He's very colorful, as you know. It's funny, like he's a very generous guy, and most of the times when we transact business, we do it in the comfort of his kitchen and his fan room at his home, just so that there's not a lot of fanfare. And Don oftentimes will give me a gift when I leave, which is very, very kind of him. One time he gave me a jacket, and it wasn't even that sort of typical Don Cherry, but it was loud for me. And the kids came home that night and I said, "Hey, I got a new suit jacket. What do you think?" And I put it on. They said, "You look like Don Cherry wearing that." And I said, "Well, that would be appropriate because Don did give it to me." So I don't necessarily wear it, but I keep it as a great keepsake from a very generous guy who's been an important part of my life. Like Don Cherry has opened a lot of doors for me. And I think there's a lot of people that feel if you can work for Don Cherry and keep him out of trouble, you're probably doing a pretty good job as a lawyer. So yeah, no, Don's been a great friend for a lot of years.
Great to hear it. I don't know him personally, but from what you explain, he sounds like a good guy and a good role model. But I know that he also took some heat a while back for some comments that he made on TV.
Yeah, in the fall of 2019, he made some comments on TV that were considered inappropriate by the network, and it cost him his livelihood, unfortunately. And, when I think back to the totality of things that Don had said over the years, like Don's stock in trade was that he spoke from the heart. He said exactly what was on his mind. He didn't filter it out. He didn't worry if anybody was offended. And there were a lot of things he said over the years that might have been in some ways more offensive than what was said in November of 2019. But times had changed, and the network felt he'd crossed the line, and it was time for him to step down and move on. But I don't think Don would change a thing. And part of Don's charm, whether you like him or you don't like him, is that he tells you exactly what he's thinking.
Looking back on your career, has there been any bumps on the road? And if so, how did you overcome them?
There's always bumps in the road, particularly in the practice of law. You always wonder where your next file is coming from. But, when things get slow, that's when you get busy doing marketing initiatives and promotional opportunities and find ways to drive more work through the door. There were bumps along the road with the Mississauga IceDogs. We were not a very successful team for the 5 years that we owned that team. But even in suffering a lot of losing games, we had some great players like Jason Spezza. I drafted Jason Spezza into the Ontario Hockey League, and I love Jason to this day. And every time Jason scores, I cheer for him. He's just retired, of course, now, but you meet a lot of great kids along the way, and you continue to cheer for all the players that have played for you. I don't necessarily cheer for teams anymore. I cheer for the kids I know on the teams that they're playing for. So there's been bumps along the road, but you learn from all the experience. Like even with Mississauga, where we lost a lot of games and it started to hurt our crowds, you learn from those experiences, and they make you better at what you do as you move forward. So I'd like to think that even the bumps in the road have educational benefits and value to you in terms of making you better at what you do going forward.
For sure. Usually the greatest learnings comes from the mistakes and the tough times.
Yes.
What would be your best advice for young people with ambitions to work in sports?
Get involved. I would start by saying invest in yourself. Do the things that you need to do to make yourself a candidate to work in the sports industry. Take a course of study at school that is compatible with what you want to do in sports. And it doesn't have to necessarily be sports management, although that's obviously a great place to start your education. But, get a business degree, get a law degree, get a master's of business administration, a sports management degree. Find people that do what it is that you want to do and find a way to meet them and hopefully work with them and build your network. Invest in yourself all the time. Like getting a job in sports doesn't happen because you go onto a website that tells you the 10 things you need to do to get a job. You need to do everything you can possibly think to do to build your brand, build your network, show people that you're reliable, that you're hardworking, and that you're not just working 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. Because if you work in sports, it's a 7-day-a-week job potentially, and you have to be prepared to make that kind of time commitment to it. But invest in yourself and do the things, meet the people that do what it is you want to do, and find a way to work with them. And don't be afraid of unpaid internships or volunteer work. You will make money down the road once you have established yourself in your career, but you are getting valuable experience. And I've said this to my own kids, all of whom interned and did not get paid at various jobs. You're getting valuable experience, and consider that an extra year of your formal education. So get out there and meet people.
And a great way to do that is to attend conferences just like the one Primetime Sports will have now in November. So yet another reason to go there.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be lobbying on behalf of our event, but our conference is a great example of an opportunity to meet with, network with, learn from leaders in the sports industry. And there's been a lot of people that have come through our event over the years that have found employment through the contacts that they made at Primetime Sports and Entertainment. And we've hired interns as well, and they've gone on to work for the Maple Leafs, the Toronto Argonauts, the New York Yankees, Mission Sports, Canadian Hockey League, Ontario Hockey League, the Canadian Football League. So, meeting people is the best way to integrate yourself into the sports. It's not enough to have a good resume and to sit behind your keyboard and fire off resumes blindly to people who don't know you. You're more likely to get hired by somebody who's met you and knows what you're all about and feels confident in you. So get out there.
I totally agree. And there are also other ways to network and other conferences, and the more the merrier, if you ask me.
Yeah, no question. And there are a lot of great conferences out there, not just in Canada or the United States, but I'm sure all around the world, wherever you are, there's a conference in your neighborhood that will help you network with people in your local community to find work in that community.
Definitely. Approaching the end here, is there something I haven't asked you that you would like to bring up?
Oh, we've covered a lot of ground, and I've offered lots of comments about lots of things. Listen to podcasts. In addition to going to conferences, like network with people that are in the industry, because you never know where it will lead. And don't just stay at home sitting behind the keyboard hoping that somebody finds you. You've got to go out and find the opportunities yourself. And I admire everybody that finds a way to get involved in the business. And I know you've got your podcast, and that's tremendous, because finding a way to get involved is the first step on the career to all the different things that you may do down the road. And never say no. Never, if I was giving advice, never say no to an opportunity, because you don't know where it will lead. You don't know who you're going to meet, and you don't know how that opportunity may prove beneficial to you down the road. So never say no. Always say yes, and work hard.
That's great advice. And thank you for the kind words about the podcast. If someone has a passion or an idea, just go for it. And if someone wants to reach out to me, please do, and I'll help in any way I can.
Good. And I think most people in the sports business are prepared to help other people find their way, because we all need a helping hand along the way. It's not like I contrast the sports world with the legal world. In the legal world, you know exactly what the steps are that you need to take to get to where you want to go. And you have to do well along the way. But it's not a straight line in the sports world. It's a crisscrossing, zigzagging sort of path. And even people I know, like Brian Burke, did not have, Brian Burke's been a general manager of 6 National Hockey League teams and a vice president of the National Hockey League. But he didn't come right out of Providence College and Harvard Law School and immediately get a job working in sports. We all have some zigzagging that we do before we land where it is that we wish to be. So don't give up. Don't give in, and be the author of your own destiny.
Fantastic. The last question that I ask everyone is, if you could choose the next guest on this podcast, who do you think that I should talk to?
That's a great question. I would say, from a Canadian perspective, Hayley Wickenheiser, the most accomplished Canadian female hockey player, inductee to the Hall of Fame, a medical doctor by recent training, and now the assistant general manager with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I have immense respect for Hayley Wickenheiser. My hope is that she will be considered as the new head of Hockey Canada when they appoint a new chairperson. But Hayley Wickenheiser has succeeded in just about everything she's ever done. She even competed for Canada in the Olympics in softball. So not just hockey, but in softball as well. So I would say Hayley Wickenheiser from a Canadian perspective. But there's dozens and dozens of great candidates for you to interview. But if you could get Hayley, that would be a coup.
Hayley sounds like a great guest indeed. And there are also others. I mean, we spoke earlier about Brian Burke, Jessica Berman, for example. And there are even more great potential guests on the Primetime conference that I would love to have on the podcast.
Yeah, any number of the people, like we have over 70 speakers committed for our event. any number of those would be great candidates for your podcast. But if I only had to pick one, I would say Hayley Wickenheiser. She's the female version of Wayne Gretzky in Canada. Like, she's held in that high regard by everybody.
That says a lot.
If you don't like Hayley Wickenheiser, look in the mirror. There's something wrong with you, because she's an amazing individual.
That's high praise. And yeah, you also mentioned Hockey Canada and what is going on there. And maybe that could be a 2.0 version of this podcast to talk about everything that's surrounded Hockey Canada.
Yeah, that's still very much a work in progress at this point. We don't know how that's going to shake out, but it's a whole series of unfortunate events that have conspired over the course of this summer to result in a lot of changes coming. But change is good, because change is obviously needed. And, I have friends that work for Hockey Canada, and I'm aware of the great things they've done and the not so great things they've done. But that book and those chapters are still being written. So we'll talk about that on another occasion when we have a better idea of where things are at. It's changing day by day, it seems. So
for sure, that would be an interesting topic down the line.
Yeah.
Trevor Whiffen, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Sports Management Podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, and thank you for supporting the Primetime Sports Management Conference.
Always.
Appreciate it. And hope to see you there. Maybe it's too quick for this year, but you're welcome anytime as our guest, of course.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.